Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Wanted to get started in time and respect everybody's busy day. Um, my name is Roberto Venegas. I'm a deputy city manager for the city of Aurora. I oversee the finance department, which purchasing and procurement was underneath the finance department, and Terry Velasquez, who's our director. Many of you who know the name and face here, and you'll hear more from her and the purchasing staff. I'm glad to see a lot of faces in the crowd. I think this is one of the most important things that the city can do, and that is outreaching to the small business community, the business community, to try to, um, for lack of a better word, demystify the contracting process in the city of Aurora and for government in general. I've worked in the private sector, I've worked in the public sector, and one of the things that has been um, a common theme is how difficult it can be to work and contract with government, and the amount of red tape or paperwork, or that it can be a challenging and daunting process. And sometimes small businesses simply decide, and large businesses and medium businesses decide, it's just not worth my time. I don't have the ability to do the contracting, so I'm going to look elsewhere for business opportunities. I think that's something that we want to avoid. And we want to, in this process, begin the conversation about what is the city doing in contracting, what's out there, the availability. As you know, an organization as big as the city of Aurora has contracting across a whole wide variety of areas, from building parks to street paving. It's mind-boggling when I see the amount of contracting that comes through, and the volume and the dollars that are put out onto the streets for bidding. We want to support local businesses, especially Aurora businesses, Denver metro businesses, to really start accessing those dollars. Sometimes it's a lack of information, it's a lack of understanding. We want to make sure that we remove all those obstacles to getting you the best information possible, to getting you access to the staff so they can answer you questions, to get you FAQs, to get you all the information you need to make informed decisions for your business. Um, I will have to admit that contracting in the government is different for intentional reasons, right? We have taxpayer dollars, they're public dollars that we have to make sure that we are accounting for, and sometimes require an extra level of scrutiny and an extra level of due diligence on our part to make sure those dollars are spent. They're spent wisely, and they're spent for the purposes of which we've contracted them for. Those are things that are sometimes required by our own ordinances. They're sometimes required by the state. If it's a federal contracting, it's required by the federal government. Oftentimes, the federal government has even higher standards to meet in terms of some of that accountability. Having said that, I think there's a lot of things that are probably just, you know, access to information and getting an understanding of what the process is, and demystifying a little bit of what the contracting process is in the government space, but also just having faces that you can call, staff that you can call, people that you can reach out to and say, hey, I'm stuck here. What am I needing to do here? Hey, I'm trying to get more access in a BidNet or other systems to make sure that I understand these companies or these kinds of projects. What should I do? Hey, my insurance requirements, is that really something that I need to have? Or what are the levels that I absolutely have, and where might there be some flexibility? So it's those are the kind of questions that here I really want to have the opportunity for to ask those detailed questions, get into the weeds of what your particular situation is, what your businesses are looking to do, the kinds of areas, and hopefully with the resources outside in the discussion that we'll have here in our procurement process, you'll get those answers. And it'll be the beginning of, some of you who are maybe already involved with the city, but for those who are just starting, the beginning of a relationship, so that you start having some conversations and being able to discuss the city, what you're looking for in terms of business opportunities. Everything starts at the procurement side. That's the kickoff, right? So that's why purchasing is heavily involved in this. That's the big part of the process at the front end that gets everything going. After that, then we move on. And if you're successful in bidding for a project, then obviously you're working with departments and project managers, et cetera. But at the outset, if you don't understand the procurement process, if you don't understand the purchasing process and how we put stuff out to bid, you're already at a disadvantage. So we want to start there. and move forward with hopefully an informative day for you. So welcome to the city of Aurora, and I will kick it off over to Nathan. Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Nathan Jones. I'm a procurement supervisor with the purchasing section of finance, City of Aurora. I've been with Aurora for about 8 years. And prior to that, I was with Denver for 26 years, 20 of that at DIA. So glad to be with the City of Aurora. And my co-worker counterpart is Christian Chiwiwi. She's also a procurement supervisor. She's not able to be here today, but the two of us work together on managing a purchasing section. We're supervising our agents and so forth. So we have some PowerPoint slides, and I'll do my best to go through them, explain. We do offer a question and answer period at the end of each presentation. We don't want to get too lengthy with them because we do have to move through, but we will take a few questions at the end of each presentation. So we will ask a question. It has to go through the mic. So I either have to repeat the question or we'll have to bring the mic to you if it's a long question and I can't remember it. So. So some of the objectives, sorry. So going back to our purchasing team, so we have a purchasing manager. That position is vacant currently, so we are currently recruiting for that position. We have 2 procurement supervisors. We have 3 senior procurement agents. Actually, one of them we are also recruiting for at this time. We only have 2 right now, but we're recruiting for the other one. And we have 4 procurement agents. What some of the objectives of purchasing and what we do is to raise awareness and proficiency in procurement, contracts, and policies and procedures. We like to try to maintain an integrity of procurement and the contracting process. We do have a centralized process, obviously, with City of Aurora, so everything comes through purchasing, and that's part of our job. We are kind of the gatekeeper of the process and making sure that we follow the proper guidelines and rules and policies. And we also like to, one of our goals and our jobs is to make sure everybody understands the responsibilities during the procurement process. So including internal customers, that's our project managers, and external customers, which would be all of you. So when we are planning for procurement, it offers going through purchasing so forth. We offer better business decision making through going through purchasing. We have opportunity to consolidate our requirements. We allow for the best procurement methodology. We have several different procurement vehicles and so forth that we use, and our job is to come up with the best vehicle to get those out and our solicitations. We also encourage our department folks and our project managers to contact purchasing early on in the process, so we are able to move these on as expeditiously as possible. And so early in the process, being notified is the best. So our purchasing process starts with a purchase requisition, a PR. So which is a document submitted by the department, which is the end user, to make a request to purchase a commodity, service, or construction need. This document initiates the process and includes budget approval, internal approvals, and budget checks. So we make sure we have the funding necessary for the project. The PR includes the description of the need, selection criteria, and other information relative to the transaction, funding, regulations, target timelines, things like that. So we have different monetary thresholds that govern our processes, where we have to, people either have to come through purchase and they don't. Less than 25,000, departments do not need to go through purchasing. They do not need to come through purchasing. They can just perform the service, buy the product, whatever they need. If it's under 25,000, directly and pay through a department. But if it's there are opportunities for purchase order to be issued if it's desired. Sometimes the contractor wants a purchase order. And so if it's under 25, we can still do a purchase order even though it's not required. And then we have the other thresholds, 25,000 to 49.9. Those are or informal solicitations where departments can go out on their own and do their own procurement process, but we still require a purchase order, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a second. So that threshold is a more informal procurement process. The formal procurement process starts with 50,000 and over, where we'll have to go for formal requests for proposals, invitation for bid, things like that. So that's where we get to be a more formal process. How am I doing, Daisy? Am I talking too fast? Okay, thank you. We got instructions to talk slow, so for my interpreter back there. We have different solicitation types. Invitation for bid, which is we have a straight hard bid. A lot of our projects are just a construction project. We have several different types of RFPs. We have two of them listed there: design build and construction manager. General contractor, CMGC. There's a couple missing there. We have just our standard request for proposals for just professional services. We also have design services RFPs. Those are the typical RFPs that we issue for our solicitations. We also have some other non-competitive award processes. We can either do a sole source award. We'll talk more about these definitions here in a second. Single source award or emergencies. So those we call non-competitive, where we go directly to a specified contractor without soliciting. We also have a statement of qualifications, which we call SOQs, and informal procurement. So the invitation for bid, which I already mentioned, we have clearly defined specs, no qualitative factors, there's no negotiation. It's where it's the lowest responsive bidder. So we always say responsive bidder, meaning they have responded to all the requirements of the bid. They have a bid bond, if they have SBE requirements, something like that. So that's what we call a responsive bidder. The SOQ, the statement of qualifications, this is a process where a lot of our projects require pre-qualification first. So we will put together an SOQ, we call it statement of qualifications document posted on BidNet, where we offer opportunity for contractors to become pre-qualified. There are certain criteria in there they need to meet, and we pre-qualify contractors to bid on a specific project. These are project specific. We don't have an overall qualification process. These are project specific. So if you're authorized to, if you get notified that you are pre-qualified to bid on a certain project, maybe we'll have 5 pre-qualified bidders. Those are the only bidders will be allowed to bid on the project. We still posted the documents on BidNet. So, I know everybody can still see the document, but we note in the document that only those pre-qualified bidders are allowed to bid on the project. The reason we put it on BidNet is because it's a system we can use and post addenda. Everybody can have easy access to it. So even though it is not open to everybody, we still post on BidNet. And there is no award from the pre-qual process, of course. We just notify companies when they are pre-qualified. So again, here's where a little more description on what the non-competitive purchase process is like. Sole source is kind of like the only game in town. Only one contractor is capable of performing these services, providing these goods. And single source is a preferred vendor. Maybe they have they own the system, something like that. We need to use them. So we call that a single source award. We have special city code requirements that allow us to use this type of selection process. Then we have our emergency awards. Sometimes a pipeline breaks. We just go out and get a contractor. We don't have time to bid it. We don't have time to solicit contractors. We just got to get done. And so then we will they go out and do the work, we'll issue a purchase order to them, and they get paid. So how does the city advertise? Well, first of all, one thing that is missing here, we do advertise all our construction projects in the Daily Journal, which is we're required to advertise in a publication of general circulation, print media. We advertise our construction projects in the Daily Journal. Many of you are probably familiar with that publication. It's a regional publication. I think it's Colorado, Wyoming primarily, and we advertise in there. But we also, all of our solicitations are posted on the Rocky Mountain e-purchasing system, otherwise known as BidNet. So if you're not on BidNet, I would advise you visit that website and get registered. There's a free option, but there's also subscription where you'll receive notices depending on the categories you select to be notified about. So everything's on BidNet. Then there's a BidNet support number and email address. The city also has a small business enterprise participation program for those projects over $250,000. This is more of an outreach rather than a compliance-driven program. This is not like Denver's. Denver's has a very detailed program. Ours is kind of a voluntary program, compliance-driven. We do ask that contractors and consultants do their best to subcontract with the 10% of the subcontracting dollars to an SBE firm for those projects over $250,000. So we do have those requirements in all our solicitations. If you can't comply with the 10%, we ask for a good faith effort from you. Again, this is kind of a voluntary program, but we do ask that you apply as much as possible. So that's for awards over $250,000. And we don't, this is all self-certification. We don't have a certification program either. We'll take certification from the city of Denver, any certification as an SBE firm. So what is a contract? An agreement enforceable by law between two or more competent parties to do or not to do something not prohibited by law for a legal consideration. A purchase order, a PO, which I've been referencing, is a document formalizing all terms and conditions of a proposed transaction. So all of our contracts, our signed contracts are accompanied by a purchase order, which is the budget, basically the budget document that we use to encumber the funds, and that's how you're going to get paid. So every contract is accompanied by a purchase order. A business may be asked to enter an agreement prior to beginning services like professional design, service agreement, construction, professional service agreement. We do require an agreement to be signed for anything over $50,000. You would be required to sign an agreement of some sort for anything over $50,000. Any in between 25 and 50, the purchase order terms and conditions will govern the project. We don't have a signed agreement for those dollar levels. A recap of purchasing responsibilities: ensure businesses are given a fair opportunity to compete for the city's business, to determine the best purchasing methodology, conduct solicitation process through a contract award in accordance with the city's policies and procedures, including city reporting, develop, implement, and maintain policies and procedures. And a recap, I also want to point out, maybe I skipped a slide here, but I can't remember if it was in here, but we do not, one thing that we did, a big revision to this Aurora's purchasing process is that we do not require city council approval for any of our procurements. Not the formalized proposal process that we used to go through, going to city council process, and we have to do a second reading and things like that. We do still have to report it on the weekly report to city council. They still do get it. They still have the opportunity to question it or call it up and send it to city council for questioning or approval. So, but that has streamlined the process quite a bit, and we thank city council and other managers for having this new procedure implemented. So it's helped things greatly. So so again, a recap of our purchasing responsibilities: make sure a person gets engaged early, plan and anticipate requirements, adhere to purchasing procedures and policies, provide clear and precise scope of work specs, serve as a primary point of contact, and administer the contract, including payment of invoices. Now the payment of invoices actually goes through our finance office. Purchasing itself does not process invoices. We do final payments for construction, but that's really the only payment process that comes through purchasing. Otherwise, they're administered directly by the department. How to contact us, we have a auroragov.org. That phone number is our main phone number for the front desk. That's our purchasing, our group email. And so I'll entertain any brief questions that we might get at this point. Yes, sir.
List, do you also advertise to the on-call people through BidNet or a different way?
Could you repeat it one more time?
Yeah, so if a contractor gets onto an on-call or a short list, when you advertise projects to that on-call or short list, does that also go through BidNet or a different way?
Well, when you are on an on call and we award a task order to your project, those are not advertised. So we solicit the project through those pre-qualified firms. Maybe we're pre-qualified in a certain category, and we have 5 pre-qualified firms where we only solicit to those firms. We don't post on BidNet. That is more of an email thing, and those are not on BidNet.
Okay, thank you.
Like the city of, like Water has their MESA program, Master Engineering Services. We have like 33 pre-qualified contractors in many different categories. That's a program. I think we're in our 8th iteration of that over the last 30 years or something. And that has really been a good program for us. But yeah, so that's how that works. We also have an on-call construction program. So, and I know that Public Works has a Joe's program. Yes, sir. Yes, I think I'm not sure. Yes, I think we have everybody's email, but I think we can make that happen. Yes, let me check on that though. I think we can make that happen. Yes. Thank you. Yes. So the question is, can work under 25,000 be issued to anybody, qualified or pre-qualified? Yes. Depending, it doesn't come through purchasing, I should say. The department may have their own needs or their own requirements, but it doesn't come through purchasing. So they still might have their own requirements for the product or the services. It just doesn't come through purchasing. The department can procure those themselves. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any more? Get the people over here. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming today, and oh, well, I forgot I have to do the risk manager part. So we're going into risks now, and Renee Pettinata Mosley is our risk manager, and she is not able to be here today. So I'm going to run through her slides that she provided. I have a disclaimer. I am not a risk manager. I am not a risk expert, and I am not an insurance expert. So if you have questions about insurance, we can take them and get to Renee, but I can just go through her slides so that she's put together for you here for us. So these are our insurance requirements for most large construction contracts. You see we have commercial general liability, so $2 million per occurrence, $4 million in the aggregate. We have automobile liability insurance of $1 million per occurrence. We have workers' comp and umbrella liability insurance. These are our standard requirements we issue with all our construction documents. And so these are our standard requirements. We have some for smaller construction contracts, smaller limits for each category. Again, these are for small construction contracts. $1 million per occurrence, $2 million in the aggregate, $1 million per occurrence in the liability. Workers' comp is $1 million. Umbrella is $2 million. And a saver always has to be named as an additional insured on all insurance. So that's one thing. I know that in our agreements, a lot of people have a question about some of our insurance requirements, and things that, those are pretty much non-negotiable in our agreements thing. So just know that, but these are the insurance requirements that are attached to our agreements. So there, we do have a case-by-case process for different projects. If they fall out of those different categories, Renee will entertain some other requirements we have pollution requirements, builder's risk, excess liability, things like that. And we do have subcontractor insurance requirements here. $1 million per occurrence again, $2 million in general aggregate, $1 million per occurrence, $500,000 for the workers' comp, and $2 million per occurrence. Important tips for insurance. Review the insurance requirements in the bid documents with your insurance or broker prior to submitting your bid. Ask any questions prior to submitting a bid. This will ensure that you understand all the coverages and limits required. If you are the successful bidder and questions arise regarding insurance during contract negotiations, have your broker speak directly to the risk manager about insurance requirements, limits, policies, so forth. Please contact the purchasing agent to make arrangements about discussing these insurance requirements. Builder's risk policy should be submitted in advance, and discussions about deductibles must take place before the contract is signed. So again, during the procurement process, the question and answer period is a time to ask questions about insurance. When we get to awarding it, we're just going to expect you to sign the agreement and submit the insurance requirements as required in the document. So make sure you get those out, or if you have questions about them. I would say I would entertain questions, but I'm going to pass on this part. Because I know a little bit about insurance. If you have any questions, you can ask them now, but I'll probably just have to pass on to Renee. I appreciate it. So next we have from our building division, Jose Rodriguez.
Good morning, all. My name is Jose Rodriguez. I'm the manager of building plan review in the building division. Here to tell you a little bit about the building division. Oh. Let's see, what do we have here? Oh, we have approximately 100 people that in the building division that take care of most of the permitting that goes with contract work that requires permits. This is kind of an old picture, but we still have a similar dedicated staff for providing those needs. And here we are, approximately 100 folks divided up among call center technicians, permit techs, plans examiners, and building inspectors. And quite a few of our staff are multi-certified in the building codes. So you can call and find out about IBC requirements or mechanical requirements and get answers from the same person. Also, the building division is accredited, also one of the only building divisions in the country to be certified. And what that means is our processes are looked at by ICC and verified that we provide one of the most utmost ways of services to the community. And here that is, right here. We're the only one in Colorado. And how do we do this? Well, it's the same folks that we have. We have our phone staff that answer calls in less than 45 seconds. And they also man our chat line and say, if you don't want to call, you want to visit our website, you can do that too, and ask questions via our chat. Here's a transcript of one of those chats. And say, for instance, you don't feel like using the phone or on the computer, you can come in person and visit us in the customer service hub just across the way here. We have some flat fees items here for what our permit fees are for smaller projects. We have ones for new construction. And we are, for our building plan reviews and most of our paperwork, if you will, we actually don't have any paper. We do everything electronically. So here's a breakdown of some of our permits that we issue. Simple permits, you can call those counter permits. Tenant finished review times are 3 days. And most of our reviews are 7 days, unless you're building something new. And here's one thing that's really incredible, that our inspection group has next day inspections and real-time results. This is something special that I think Aurora is known for. And here's some statistics from last year. Incredible amount of calls to our call centers. And here's the raw numbers of what our group does. And if you look at the bottom, 123,000 inspections last year. So this is how we serve you. We try to do our best with certified staff. A lot of information for flat fees that you can get. Our website is really put together well. And basically, we care. We care whether or not your project goes well. Any questions? Yes. Well, in the building division, we do have a part of our staff who are fire certified, and we have our fires. Let me get this right. We have folks who do reviews and inspections on behalf of the fire department for new construction. And while the fire service does their annual inspections, we do the inspections and reviews for anything that's new. So, any other questions? Thank you. And next up is Kyle Wechter.
All right. All right. Hi, I'm Kyle Wechter. I'm with the finance department. Specifically, I am a tax auditor. Boo, boo, boo. So what I wanted to mainly cover today is the tax ramifications. So if you do get awarded a either a purchasing contract or especially a construction contract with the city, what does that look like? As you can see so far, there's kind of a flow. You know, there's the purchasing part, there's the building review and actual permit issuance, and then there's you know, potentially a tax component. So the thing about sales and use tax is the answer to most questions is it depends. It really depends on the circumstances of the transaction. It also can potentially depend on the documentation of the transaction. You know, the same transaction invoiced in two different ways can have different tax ramifications. So I really wanted to give you a general overview and a couple of major points to be aware of, you know, as takeaways. And all of this stuff is available. We have a special section on our website for building use tax, and that talks about the difference between exempt and non-exempt projects and so forth. So one of the first things is licensing. Do you need a license? And the answer is probably. If you're going to be engaged in business in the city of Aurora, either with the city or just engaged in business, you most likely need a license. And that is different than the contractor license. And so there's info on that. Angelica's outside if you have any specific questions on licensing questions. She's a wealth of knowledge on that. But the answer is probably, you probably do need a license in addition to your contractor license. So one of the main things I wanted to give you as a takeaway is the difference between purchasing of tangible personal property exempt, and then also and then an actual construction project that would be, covered by a permit and normally have a use tax deposit and so forth. So when if you get approved for a project, let's just say you win a purchase order to provide some chairs for us. The city of Aurora has what's called a city exempt certificate. It's issued by the IRS, and it certifies the organization as exempt that's making that purchase. And we would present that to you and say, hey, don't charge us Aurora tax because we are an exempt organization. So that's for a sale directly to the city of Aurora of tangible personal property. What I do on a daily basis is work with construction reconciliation. And so there's exempt projects and non-exempt projects. And I wanted to make sure you understood that the organizational exempt certificate is not enough to have a project be exempt. We, as the city of Aurora, even for our own projects, which is a little bit counterintuitive, don't you guys make your own rules? Yeah, we do, but the rule in this case is that we follow the state. So if you are issued a project for the city of Aurora and you're a contractor, you're going to need to get a state contractor's exempt certificate. We call them 98 and 89s because that's the numbers that the documents start with. I wish they would have used numbers that weren't just a little bit different from each other. But so the 89 is the critical document, and that is issued to the contractor for the specific projects. So again, the 98 is issued to the organization and is used as the exempt documentation to make purchases of tangible personal property. The 89 or state contractor exempt certificate is issued directly to the general contractor for that specific project. And the city of Aurora follows that. So if you don't have that, even if it's a project for us, we would consider, we would say at that point you owe Aurora taxes on those construction materials. So it's important to have the process in mind when you're doing that. And the permit counter does issue permits, and they normally have a use tax deposit on them. And so for these exempt projects, if you already have your 89 and present that at the time of permitting, they will issue that permit without a use tax deposit on it. And it's just quite a bit cleaner that way. Am I logged out? And just to touch real quickly too, if you're not aware, you probably are if you're here in the state, but Aurora is a home rule city, and home rule means that we have our own tax code and we collect our own taxes and we have our own ordinances. It's very different in a lot of states, especially with taxes. It's really just all done through the state. And, sales tax is kind of sales tax. The rates differ a little bit city to city, but there's a lot of similarities. In construction, there is major differences. So a project across the street in Denver, versus one in Aurora that maybe, you may be able to see each other. The taxation and reconciliation processes and even what's taxable is going to be different. And on exempt projects in particular, Aurora does generally consider that exempt projects as determined by the state are the building materials for that project are going to be exempt. Whereas like at Denver, it's not. It gets into some tax theory pretty quickly and who the end user is. Interesting stuff to me, probably not to you. But the takeaway is it may be different in different cities. So even if you've done a project for Denver and gone through their process and reconciled, it's definitely going to be different here and anywhere else. So it's something to be aware of. Okay. All right. So on those exempt projects, the permanent building materials are what's exempted, what's normally covered by a permit. There still may be tax liability if you're the general contractor or a subcontractor. The main liabilities we see are rented or owned equipment brought on site to perform what you're performing. There is potentially use tax on that, and I'll show you an example of our form. And then things like, we call it consumable supplies. An example is, you buy a box of gloves for the project and it gets delivered to the project address. If you got it from Home Depot and they charge you Aurora tax, you're done with that. But if you get it online or something and they didn't charge Aurora tax, you do have a use tax liability for that purchase. That is not covered on a non-exempt project, it's not covered by the permit. On an exempt project, it's not covered by the exemption. So it's something to be aware of, because sometimes people think that because it's an exempt project, literally everything touching that project is exempt, and it's just not the case. So you do want to be aware of your potential direct liability, both as a contractor. Now, here's an important distinction. Subcontractors, so if you're a GC and you subcontract somebody and they bring their own equipment onto the site and there's a tax liability there, that liability does not flow to the general contractor. It's direct liability from the subs. And the subs will be also using that 89 form to purchase those covered materials without paying Aurora tax. So they actually present that form to their vendors, and that's the exempt documentation, where it would normally be either a resale certificate or whatever it may be. That's the paper trail that gets created from vendor through potentially sub through GC to the project owner. And it's important that paper trail be in good order, because I could audit potentially anybody along that process. And so anywhere there is a transaction, sales and use tax is transactional, you do want to have that proper documentation in order. So this is our equipment declaration. This is just an actual example of it. This is what you would fill out either for an exempt project or a non-exempt project. It's just a way to schedule the equipment that you've brought on site and report it to us as part of that project. And this is the bottom of it. At the very bottom, there's a place for a total of taxable consumable supplies. And you'll notice it says taxable. So again, if you went to Home Depot and bought a box of gloves and paid the Aurora tax, we don't want to see that here. What we want to see is, hey, we purchased some temporary erosion control and we didn't pay Aurora tax on it. So we know that we owe that to you. This is a way to report that to us. Potentially, if you are licensed with us and reporting quarterly or monthly or annually, you could also report that via your sales and use tax return. You just want to report it. We're not trying to play gotcha if you did it, not quite exactly right. We just want to make sure the city got the correct amount of money that they're due. Occupational privilege tax, I'm going to touch on very briefly. It's basically $2 per employee and is matched by the employer. As contractors, you want to be aware of that on long-term projects where maybe you have some people embedded where they're not working anywhere else. Like if you have crews everywhere and you report the occupational privilege tax to your home jurisdiction, you don't need to report it to us as long as it's paid somewhere. But, let's say this is your only project and it's a multi-year project, and we do see those employees would potentially be eligible or have a liability for the occupational privilege tax, and you as the employer withhold $2 from each qualifying employee and then match that, and you file that via your occupational privilege tax return, which, going back to the beginning, is part of that licensing as well. So I don't want to take too much time on it because it's important, but the dollar amount is so small. Let me see if there's anything I missed here. Yeah, so it's just, it's really important to understand the difference between a construction project and construction materials and tangible personal property. It's a different process to sell this chair to the city of Aurora than to be awarded a contract for to build a new building that includes a lot of materials that are going to be covered. And if anybody does have questions, I may just ask you to come see us out front if it's a specific question, because a lot of times they don't apply. But if it's a general question that I think would help everyone else too, we can go ahead and give it a shot. Anyway, sir. Yeah, so that's it's a good question. Question specifically is about temporary erosion control, and it's anytime you have a definition, there's always kind of area on each side that potentially you could make an argument for, yeah, this should qualify for this or this shouldn't. Temporary erosion control is a very good example. So his question was, would that then be subject to this tax because it is not a permanent piece of equipment or a permanent material that becomes part of the building and becomes inseparable from the building? There's some very specific definitions of what qualifies as construction material. So that's a great example. That would be taxable. So you would, either pay tax to the vendor when you bought it, or you would accrue and remit use tax to us, and that would be a direct thing for if it was subcontracted out, the subcontractor, the GC would owe that directly to the city as use tax liability on that project. So that's a great question. And it comes down to the definition of construction materials and what's covered by a permit on a non-exempt job and what's covered by the exemption in an exempt job. And those two things are not exactly the same, but 99.9% are the same. What's covered by the exemption, the 89 when that's issued, is the same as what would be covered by the permit when that's issued. And the permit, just to kind of get back to the basics, the permit is presented by the GC if they're buying things directly from a vendor as evidence that the vendor should not charge Aurora sales tax. And that is also, that same permit is given to subcontractors, and they use it in the same manner. That is the paper trail from vendor, all the way up through general contractor and owner. That is the evidence of the exemption. So that's a great question. It really is. And it's with sales and use tax, there's always a definition, and then there's stuff that's obvious on both sides, like, yep, that's taxable, no question about it. No, of course that's not taxable. And then there's stuff like that where it's like, well, you could really make the argument either way. And so we need to get some clarity, and we try to have resources available for you for that. It always comes back down to the code, and you have appeal rights if you're taxed on it and disagree with it. But we like to try to get you some clarity up front. So that's a really good question. Anyone else? Sir. Is a business license required for consultants? I don't know. I mean, generally, if you're doing business in Aurora, you do need a license. But I mean, if you're not based in Aurora and you're just consulting on something and providing a service where you're not going to have any tax liability, I don't think so. But that's a good question to ask Angelica. She's right outside, and she'll give you a for sure answer on that. You're always safer to have the license, even if you're filing zero returns. At least that way we know who you are, and there's some advantages to it too, because we have a database on our website where if somebody is looking, it's a good idea as a general contractor or as anything to check that part of our webpage and make sure you're dealing with people that have an Aurora license. Because there can be problems by not doing that. So one of the advantages is you would appear on that site, but you don't always need a license, especially if you're not based here and you're not, doing a substantial amount of business here. But good question too. Anyone else? Okay, and I will be at that table. Like I say, especially with construction, a lot of the questions are very specific, and you may not want to ask something in front of your peers. We will be there to provide you information, and we're always here. One of the things I think Aurora does better than anywhere else I've had experience with is we answer the phone. If you call the audit department with a question like this, you'll get forwarded to me, and I'll do my best to get you if I don't know, I'll get you an answer. And we have the licensing and our customer service is right around the corner here. That's always available. And then today there's a bunch of great tables out front. We have permitting is also out front. They have a table. So if you have any questions about kind of the process of getting one of these, hey, we've been awarded a project, but how do we actually physically get the permit, that kind of stuff, we're out there. So there's a lot of resources here. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. And I would like to introduce, who's up next? Elena Vasconez is going to present next. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. And my name is Elena Vascones, and I'm representing today the Business Services and SBDC Small Business Development Center. And why are we here? Actually, we don't do procurement, but we support all the small businesses that want to do procurement with the city. And we offer a variety of supporting services to small and medium-sized businesses. So the SBDC, or Small Business Development Center, and Business Services, we offer one-on-one business consulting, which is free and confidential, in a variety of areas such as business management, financials, marketing, and government procurement. We also do a whole bunch of business educational webinars and events. A lot of our classes are free or low cost, and they're mostly on demand. We have a few that are virtual and in person. And then we have a variety of business referrals. So the idea is that, we work with, for example, tax and licensing. We also work with a procurement and with other organizations. So if we're not able to answer all your questions, we have a network of connections, accountants, bookkeepers, lawyers. We work with lending institutions, local lending institutions. So if you need a loan, for example, what we could do is help you with a business plan, develop your financials, and then connect you with these lending institutions. Because we're also part of the SBDC, we have access to a network of lawyers. And a lot of them do pro bono work with small businesses, for example, to review a contract. For example, if you have HR issues, they will help you with that. So we have a lot of resources, and all of our services are offered both in English and Spanish. If we have small businesses that need help in other languages, we have a system here at the city where we can get translation and interpretation. So let me tell you a story of one of our businesses that we've been working on for a little while, just to give you an idea of how we work with business clients. And so Pieto's Catering started with us in 2017. She's an awesome cook, and she always dreamed about owning her own restaurant. But she decided to start with doing catering services from a commercial kitchen here in Aurora. And she did very well, started marketing, getting some clients. And because of this, she decided she wanted to buy a food truck. So we helped her with a business plan, helped her, send her to lending institutions, and she bought a food truck. Now she's all over the city of Aurora, and she actually has some clients in Denver. In 2024, she partnered with the owner of La Cueva restaurant in Colfax Avenue, and she's serving a lot of her food through that. But now we're helping her look for a location to start her own restaurant. She also, because of her community involvement and because, we've been making some introductions, she became a vendor at Global Fest. Probably quite a few have been to our Global Fest event every year, and that expanded her horizons, right, and met a lot of people. And she also participated in a really cool program called Eat Local Food Program. And this is a program where we help caterers, again, get prepared to work with anchor institutions, such as the city of Aurora and such as Anschutz Medical Campus. So, now she's able to do bigger contracts under 25,000, right? And offer her services both at the city of Aurora, city of Denver, Anschutz Medical Campus. So, So because of the work she's been doing with us, she actually has had a revenue increase this year up to $70,000. She has retained 4 jobs, and this year she was able to hire 1 more person. And I know this is, a story of a caterer in a small business, but we can do all this for you, right? Through our business consulting and the work that we do here at the City of Aurora and SBDC. So a little background on the SBDC. The SBDC is hosted by the city of Aurora. So we have a location here at the Aurora Municipal Center. And the SBDC belongs to a network of 14 centers across the state of Colorado. So if you're not based here in Aurora, but in South Metro, we can also serve you. And if you're not in South Metro in other areas, you can also access those services. If you go to their website, you can, find that map, click on it, and find a location. We have 3 locations, as I said, one in the city of Aurora, one at the city of Englewood, and another one in Castle Rock. So if you call them, connect with them, you can access the same services. Just something to brag about, because of the work that we've been doing with small businesses for many years, the SBDC has been recognized with, several awards. Let's talk a little bit about the impact. So from 2023 and 2024, the impact that the businesses that we have served, you can see it here, right? These businesses have created 777 jobs. 62 businesses have been started, and the capital that they have accessed through our partners and lending is over $12 million. So that's a lot of impact that's staying in our community. We are very proud of our customer service, and we pride on that, as well as the city of Aurora. That's one of our pillars here. So we're here to, support you and work with you through your business journey. So how do you access our services? So if you're a startup, which probably the majority of you here are not, you can go to our website. You have to take a 90-minute class on basics on how to start a business, understanding, what it's going to take, and then you can request a one-on-one consulting session. If you're an existing business, you could just go to our website and request a one-on-one consulting with one of our generalists, with a marketing consultant, a finance consultant, a contracting consultant. We have a variety of consultants, retail and restaurant specialists. Request a consulting session, and you can meet with them directly. And again, as I said, these are virtual. And we also have the option for you to come in if you want to do an in-person consulting session. I think we're stuck. Thank you very much. So here are some of the topics that we cover. A lot with social media, with marketing, financial strategies. Some of you probably, need money, or you're thinking of, expanding. We also have a really cool programs called exit planning. And this is a combination of training as well as one-on-one consulting sessions. So if you're thinking, okay, I need to start planning because in a few years I'm going to sell my business, or I want to leave it for my kids or my employees, right? Employee-owned business, we can help you with that. It's a 4-week program, again, and you have consulting immersed in that program. We just launched it, and it's really nice. The other thing that we can do and help you is with government certification basics. So if you want to get certified, if you want to learn more about that, we can, help you with that. And finally, we partner very closely with a restaurant and retail program here at the city of Aurora. So if you're looking for a location, we can help you with that. We'll work together with that department to help you find a location and, get everything taken care of so you can hopefully access it and, move in. We also partner with the Minority Business Office, or MBO, as well as the Colorado Apex Accelerator. And their specialty is actually government certifications and contracting. So if you're a client, we can make a direct referral. If not, you have the contact information there. And they also have training as well as one-on-one consulting and can guide you through the entire process. I think we're stuck again. Thank you, ma'am. So here are a few resources for you. The Small Business Administration, and the SBDC works very closely with the SBA. They have a resource guide. So if you're looking for resources on, how to grow your business, how to get finance, how to do government contracting, whether it's local, state, or federal, that is a really good resource for you. You can just download it and, get the information. If you are looking to connect with other vendors or anchor institutions, such as the City of Aurora and Shoes Medical, you might want to check out the shopbypop.com website because this is a free online marketplace. And a lot of anchor institutions from Denver, from Aurora, from the Denver metro area are there, and they are looking for small businesses to work with. So free online marketplace. If you're a veteran and you're looking for connections and you're looking for government contracts and funding, actually the Pikes Peak SBDC is going to have a veterans conference and on November 1st. It's a really good opportunity for you to go there and network and again get a lot of resources. And as I mentioned before, we partner with licensing and sales tax and licensing. We do a lot of one-on-one consulting to support that. So if you have any questions, but also we do classes together. So if you go to our website, if I'm correct, we have the next classes coming up next month, and they're 2-hour classes, and you learn everything about, tax and licensing, which is like very, very helpful. So when you get the PowerPoint, you could probably click on those links. And please visit our table outside. We have a lot of resources. We can answer all the questions that you might have. So here are the QR codes, both for training, for our website, and for consulting sessions. Thank you very much. And any questions that I might be able to answer? The SBDC threshold is, which we abide by, is 500 employees or less. So the majority of small or medium-sized businesses, qualify. If you go over that, we have other resources and a couple other organizations that, might be able to help you. Any other questions? Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elena. So that is the final presentation we have for you today. If you want to hear this again, it's at 11, if you think you missed anything. And also, if you did register, we encourage you to register outside and provide your email address. We will be attempting to put together a brief survey about this event, send that out along with hopefully this presentation as well. So thank you so much for coming. Go out, see the tables, talk to people, have some little snack. Thank you very much. Have a great day.